Hello, my name is Dr. Berry, and today we're going to talk about anatomy of a brachial plexus, one of the most complex network of nerves responsible for providing motor, sensory, and sympathetic innervation to the entire upper limb. So the goals of today's video are to describe the anatomical organization of the brachial plexus and to identify the terminal and collateral branches of the brachial plexus, indicate their point of origin within the plexus, and to identify their spinal root contributions. So, in order to achieve all of these goals, it is very important to learn how to draw the brachial plexus. Drawing reinforces understanding of anatomical organization of the brachial plexus. In fact, you will see the logic in this anatomical organization. And also it enhances ability to predict and interpret the clinical consequences of brachial plexus injuries. So, brachial plexus is formed by ventral rami of spinal nerves from C5 to T1, known as roots. Don't confuse the roots of the brachial plexus with roots of the spinal nerves. So in this case, roots is just the name of the region of the brachial plexus. Roots join forming trunks. There are three trunks: superior, inferior, and middle trunk. Trunks split, forming divisions, anterior and posterior divisions. All of these three regions of the brachial plexus located within the neck. Divisions join, forming cords. Three cords are formed: lateral, medial, and posterior, located in the axilla. Very important, the cords are located around the axillary artery, the second part of the axillary artery, and named based on the relationship to the axillary artery. So the posterior cord is located posterior to the axillary artery, the lateral will be laterally, and medial will be medial to the axillary artery. So the cords give off main branches, and there are 5 of them: musculocutaneous, radial, axillary, ulnar, and median nerves that travel toward the upper limb. So this is the mnemonic that might help you to remember all of the regions of the brachial plexus in the correct order. So, roots of C5 and C6 join, forming superior trunk. C7 root continues, forming the middle trunk. C8 and T1 join, forming inferior trunk. Trunks split to form divisions. Each trunk splits into anterior and posterior divisions. Divisions join, forming cords: lateral cord, posterior cord, and medial cord. Cords give off terminal branches, and posterior cord gives off 2 terminal branches: axillary nerve and radial nerve. Lateral cord gives off musculocutaneous nerve, medial, ulnar nerve, and lateral and medial cord join, forming median nerve. So this diagram represents all of the regions of the brachial plexus and terminal branches. However, we need to know more. We need to know all of the collateral branches, and on the top of just knowing the names of the collateral branches, we need to know the origin, which region of the brachial plexus these collateral branches they originate from. We also need to know which nerves contribute to the formation of each collateral and terminal branch. It is a complicated task, and you can memorize all of this. However, the memorization of this information would not last for a long time. So the only way to understand brachial plexus and its terminal and collateral branches is to draw it. So let's draw it to know it. Let's make brachial plexus easy. When I draw brachial plexus, I use 3 steps. So the first step, I call it pointless arrows. So let's draw 3 pointless arrows. So 2 of them point in one direction, and the third one in the middle points in the opposite direction. Second step, I refer to this step as alphabet. So we're going to draw X, letter X, and half of Y, and letter M or W, whatever you want it to be. It depends where you stand. And I will continue right from the middle, another line. So now we are ready to label this drawing. First, we're going to start with the roots. So roots C5, C6, 7, 8, and T1. So these are roots of the brachial plexus. So next, trunks. Trunks superior trunk, inferior trunk, and middle. Divisions. I'm going to use a different color. Divisions. So we have anterior and posterior divisions. So I'm going to color coordinate them. So I'm going to color all posterior divisions blue. So these are going to be posterior. Posterior divisions. Posterior, posterior, posterior. And let's make anterior divisions in green. So we can distinguish between them better. So anterior divisions. So divisions join, forming chords. So we're drawing left brachial plexus. So this is our brachial plexus that we're trying to draw the diagram of. So this is lateral chords, lateral chord, posterior chord, and medial chord. So, and now let's label the terminal branches. So these are going to be terminal branches. Posterior chord gives axillary and radial. Lateral chord, musculocutaneous. Lateral medial chord join, forming median nerve. And the medial chord gives off ulna. Ulnar nerve. All of these are going to be radial nerve, axillary nerve. So right now, So these are branches. So now this diagram represents major regions of the brachial plexus with terminal branches. So now we're going to use the rule number 3 in drawing of the brachial plexus, and I refer to this rule or step 3 as 4 threes. So 4 threes. Very important rule that will help you to understand all of other branches of the brachial plexus that we refer as collateral branches. So first 3 come directly from roots of C5, 6, and 7, long thoracic nerve. Right here on this side you can see all of the abbreviations. Long thoracic nerve, first 3. Second 3, one nerve comes from the root of C5. Then we have the nerve coming from the superior trunk and the nerve that comes from the lateral cord. 1, 2, 3. 3 nerves. Let's name them. The nerve that comes directly from C5 root, dorsal scapular nerve. The nerve that comes from the superior trunk is suprascapular nerve. Once again, abbreviations you can find in this list. And the nerve that comes from the lateral cord is lateral pectoral nerve. All right, so next 3. Next 3 from the posterior cord. 1, 2, 3. Right in the middle is thoracodorsal nerve. Other 2, one superior to the thoracodorsal nerve, another inferior to the thoracodorsal nerve, named based on the relationship to this thoracodorsal nerve, and they're known as upper and lower subscapular nerves. And upper and lower subscapular nerves. And the last 3 comes from the medial cord. 1, 2, 3. The first is medial pectoral nerve. The one in the middle is medial brachial cutaneous nerve. It's a long name, however, the name of the nerve gives you the function of the nerve. And the third is medial anterbrachial cutaneous nerve. So by using the rule of 4 threes, we positioned every single collateral branch at the right origin at the brachial plexus. So there is one nerve that doesn't actually follow this rule. There is a small nerve to the subclavius muscle that comes from the superior trunk as well. Just remember that. So now, how can we use this diagram to help us to understand which spinal nerves contribute to which nerve? So majority of these nerves, they follow the rules. There are a few exceptions that we will discuss at the very end. So now let's identify which spinal nerves contribute to the formation of each of these nerves. Look at this. So long thoracic nerve is formed by the roots of C5, 6, and 7. Remember, C5, 6, 7, keep the wind from heaven. C5 to 7. The dorsal scapular nerve, look at this, it branches directly from C5, so there is nothing else that can contribute to the formation of this nerve, strictly C5. Let's look at the suprascapular nerve. It comes from the superior trunk that is formed by joining of C5 and C6. So suprascapular nerve is formed by C5 and C6. So now let's move to the lateral pectoral nerve. So lateral cord receives contribution from the middle trunk through the anterior division. So the lateral cord receives contribution from C5, 6, and 7. So lateral pectoral nerve receives contribution from C5, 6, and 7. The same as musculocutaneous. Musculocutaneous nerve receives contribution from all of the spinal nerves that contribute to the formation of the lateral cord. All right, so now let's move to the median nerve. Median nerve is formed by the joining of the lateral cord and the medial cord. Look at the medial cord. It is formed by C8 and T1. There is no any other region of the brachial plexus that contribute to the formation of the medial cord. So the medial cord is formed only by C8 and T1. So when they join together with the lateral cord, median nerve receives contribution from all of the roots of the brachial plexus. So median nerve from C1 to T1. All right, now let's look at the ulnar nerve. Once again, there's only C8 and T1 contribution. So I can tell you that this is so easy because ulnar nerve and all other nerves that branch from the medial cord, they receive contribution from C8 and T1. So let's put C8, T1, and once again, all of the collateral branches of the medial cord receive contribution from C8 and T1. So now let's look at the radial nerve. So the posterior cord receives posterior divisions from superior trunk, from the inferior trunk, and from the middle trunk. So posterior cord receives contribution from each root of the brachial plexus. So radial nerve receives contribution from C5 to T1. So now exceptions from the rules. So welcome to medicine, we always have exceptions. So axillary nerve, upper and lower subscapular nerves, they are contributed by C5 and C6. So that's what you need to memorize. So axillary nerve, upper and lower subscapular nerves contributed by C5 and C6. And the thoracodorsal nerve is contributed by C6, 7, and 8. So that's what you need to memorize. This is exception from the rule, but all other contributions, they actually make sense. So now I hope that after learning how to draw brachial plexus, instead of seeing a bowl of spaghetti, you see well-organized anatomical structure with all of the regions and terminal branches and collateral branches, and you can actually understand and figure out the contribution of the spinal nerves to the formation of all of the branches of the brachial plexus. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.